Hi, I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week. My partner, Kristen Oaks-White, will join us a little bit later in the show. Nearly 5,000 children got answers to the question, where does our food come from? The LSU Ag Center transformed Parker Coliseum in Baton Rouge into an ag magical experience. Doors open to an in-person experience for the first time in 2 years. TWILA's Brianne Hendrickson shows us the magic.
Worms and dirt go together just like agriculture in our daily lives.
This dude's huge.
Ag Magic is showing the younger generation just how much we use agriculture. From forestry to insects to animals. Ag Magic coordinator Hannah Duvall is happy this event is in person again.
As you can hear in the background, we are super excited to have all of these yells of excitement, all of these aha moments happening, having these children back here with us in person after not having an in-person event since 2019. We're just extremely excited to have these groups back coming through, hearing these students back on campus and having them work their way through this event.
These aha moments will become core memories to help children understand more about agriculture.
Are you seeing?
That understanding comes in conversations like this.
Yeah.
Duvall explains why these moments are valuable to the agriculture industry.
The overall goal of Ag Magic is agricultural literacy and awareness. We want these students who may not have had the opportunity anywhere else in their school career to understand where products that they're used to seeing come from. So what the origin and the roots of these Louisiana commodities are.
Duvall has worked this event for several years. To her, these aha moments are special.
Does it hurt when you get pinched?
Yes, it does.
It's a feeling that's unexplainable. When you see students who are able to touch the sheet for the first time, or to be able to count the rings on a wood cookie, and just be able to see that and have them put that together, and you can kind of see that happening in their face as they're going through the event, and that is the same exact look and the feeling that we hold on to year round. When it comes to planning for this, when we were setting up last week, it really is just, we're doing this for these students, and that feeling is undescribable, being able to see that aha moment for them as they go through the event.
More than 300 volunteers from the LSU Ag Center and 4-H members share their knowledge of agriculture. If you or your children would like to learn more about the magic of agriculture, you can head on over to twilatv.org. Now, I have to say, seeing those children get their hands on in the agriculture industry is phenomenal. And the insect part, I don't know about.
You see, that's one of my favorite parts because it kind of shows how pollinators play a part. But what about the Madagascar hissing cockroach?
That's a no for me. Did not want to hold that thing.
But it was your first time going to this event. What did you think of it overall?
It was phenomenal. Seeing that they go more than just the animals and, like you said, showing us the pollinators and the worms and things like that. But those kids are able to dig for those worms and such. So it was so good to see that. Hands always makes it better. Thank you so much, Brianne Hendrickson. Well, more than half of all agricultural operations in the country either have a woman as the principal operator or a decision maker. That's according to the 2019 Agricultural Resource Management Survey. Recently, several hundred women gathered in central Louisiana for the Women in Agriculture Conference. Our friend and reporter for RFD TV, Tammy Arender, was there to find out why more women are getting involved in farming and ranching.
At the Louisiana Women in Agriculture Conference, you're going to be able to learn a lot. Not just about how to farm, but how to tell that story. That's one of the most important things happening here, as some 530 women from all across the state and even some from outside Louisiana borders have come here to learn all about farming and how to share that story. Some of them have been in farming for a long time. Others are wanting to just get started. It's all about networking and finding out what's working on someone's farm and maybe what's not, and be able to share that advice. So there are many breakout sessions. They also have an expo set up where you can take selfies, you can pet the animals. We ran into the most adorable little girl carrying around one of the baby goats.
She's 2 months old and she is a baby.
And they're talking about value-added products here as well. But I got to visit with Meredith Bernard. You may know Meredith from social media. She is this farm wife.
It's been so rewarding to see what people are learning, people that have no background in farming, what they're learning about where their food and fiber even comes from, and then also being able to relate to other people like the women in this room today that are sharing very similar stories. And that's what I love hearing, that when people just come up and say, I can relate to what you're talking about so much. And I think it's just nice for us all to know that we're not alone.
Also, one of the main speakers here is Louisiana Commissioner Mike Strain. He's always one to advocate for agriculture and talk about the many things that are done here in Louisiana and how they're making things better to be able to increase that bottom line for our producers.
We are going to be shipping a greater share of the world food supply from Louisiana and from the United States. We are going to be really in the driver's seat, and everything is gearing up to do that. You know, we've dredged our rivers. We are building more docks. We're building more facilities. But also, if you look what's happening in the Ukraine and, of course, with Russia, there's going to be a huge deficit, specifically in wheat and in corn and in beans and other commodities. Also looking at world supply and demand.
You know, it's been a couple of years since they've had this conference, so Denise Canatello, who is actually in charge of putting it on this year, says it's wonderful to be back in person.
Giving the women who have interest in agriculture, who, whether it be a hobby farm or someone up on a production level where they're growing, like my farm does, soybeans, corn, and sugarcane, it gives us the tools that we can make informed decisions for ourselves.
For This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, I'm Tammy Arender.
Next week, we'll have more from the Louisiana Women in Agriculture Conference. Tammy followed along with one of the farm tours, and she'll have that story next week. Also, we'll have a story from Neil Melanson as he joined a group on a hayride through pine forests in northwest Louisiana. Well, over the past few shows, we've put the spotlight on some giants in Louisiana agriculture who recently joined the Ag Giants in the Louisiana Agriculture Hall of Distinction. This week, we share the story of Dr. Paul Correll. As Craig Gautreaux shows us, aside from serving as director of the Louisiana Cooperative Extension Service overseeing 4-H, Correll also spent decades helping private landowners, industry, and governments fight coastal land loss.
While growing up in Ville Platte, farming and outdoor activities always played a big role in the life of Paul Correll and his family. It was natural he would pursue a career that combined both of these interests. And with the accomplishments and contributions he has made to Louisiana during his career, it was obviously the right choice.
My grandfather was a rice farmer, and he grew crawfish as well. My dad was a feed and seed dealer, salesman, and I grew up working in a feed and seed store since 12 years old. We were big hunters and fishermen, big outdoorsmen, so we loved being out in the environment and enjoying the outdoors. I just thought that working with natural resources would be really a career that would be rewarding and something that matched up with my interest as a young person.
Correll's first job was as a Sea Grant agent in Calcasieu and Cameron parishes, an area that can be quite challenging for someone beginning their career and starting a family. But it provided him a solid foundation for future endeavors.
I really learned a lot from the commercial fishermen and the people of Cameron, Calcasieu parishes. It was a wonderful education for me to learn how people make a living off the land. It prepared me for, I think, another career in looking at this severe challenge we had with losing wetlands at a tremendous rate.
Being a former 4-H'er, Correll knows this youth organization has a part in shaping future leaders in the agricultural industry. He has promoted 4-H through prolific fundraising and raising awareness of 4-H across the state.
4-H builds character and it builds leadership, and that's what we need in our communities today. That's what we need in agriculture. And I believe it's probably the best organization for building leaders for the future.
Correll served as Extension Director for the LSU Ag Center from 2001 until 2013. During this time, budget issues caused changes to be undertaken at the Ag Center. One major development was extension specialists becoming more involved with research.
So having a research department and an extension department, I think, was one of the best things we ever did. We also moved the specialists into the field. The extension specialists went out into the research stations, and they were closer to the farmers. The Ag Center is much stronger with specialists in the field, near the area they work, where the crops are grown. And the farmers can drive by, go visit, drink a cup of coffee. Great relationships. They learn more about the research needs, and they do better in serving the needs of the research community.
Correll now considers himself in his give-back years. He is currently serving his second stint as Chancellor of LSU Alexandria. It is a job he never envisioned taking, but he is grateful for the opportunity it gave him and his wife of 45 years, Arlene.
I never thought I'd be a chancellor at the university, but this opportunity has really been a blessing to me. It's been a good time in this time of my life, and thank God I'm healthy. My wife's still a big supporter, so together we're both happy in where we're at, and we'll be here a few more years, but we really enjoy the work we're doing together.
Paul Correll's career has taken him from the marshes of southwest Louisiana to the halls of LSU's main campus and now LSU's campus in Alexandria. And while the journey isn't over, it now includes a place in the Louisiana Agriculture Hall of Distinction.
I look at the list of people that have been inducted, and they're giants. I mean, we stand on the shoulders of these people that built Louisiana agriculture. And for me to even be considered as a candidate is amazing to me, and I'm humbled by it, but I really want to thank everyone that I've worked with throughout my career. They're all part of this award. It's not a single award, it's an award for everyone that brought me to this point in my life, and I thank everybody for that.
Inducted into the Louisiana Agriculture Hall of Distinction with Correll were Voice of Louisiana Agriculture Radio Network farm reporter Don Molino and retired Louisiana Farm Bureau Assistant to the President Jim Monroe. We've brought you those stories over the last couple of weeks. You'll find them posted on our YouTube channel and on our website at twilatv.org. Still to come on TWILA, the true test of any barbecue master is the brisket. That's why Kristen Oaks White found someone who passes that test every time using Louisiana beef. Feasting on Agriculture is next.
I'm Kristen Oaks White, and welcome to Feasting on Agriculture. Now that Easter has come and gone and the Lenten season is over, Louisiana beef is what's for dinner.
Feasting on Agriculture with Kristen Oaks White is brought to you by the Louisiana Crawfish Promotion and Research Board, Louisiana Crawfish, ask before you eat, and by the Louisiana Beef Industry Council, beef, it's what's for dinner, and by the Louisiana Rice Promotion Board, think rice.
This month's episode, we're bringing you the beef in the big way, and we're going to cook the holy grail of barbecue, and that's a smoked brisket. And to cook this perfect smoked brisket, we're enlisting the help of Mr. Jay Ducote, Louisiana's own celebrity chef. And so when we talk about smoking a brisket, this is not something that's for the faint of heart when it comes to barbecuing, because it takes a really long time, and it's really challenging to get it right. Why is that?
Yeah, you know, to me, this is really the toughest thing to do in the barbecue world, to get right. The brisket is really, it is the holy grail. It is the toughest piece of meat to get right in competition barbecue or for any barbecue restaurant out there. It's what you can really kind of judge somebody's barbecue on, and I love it. And I also think it's one of the hardest pieces of meat to perfect.
And it's so difficult because it can be really tough, right?
Yeah, sure. You know, you're taking one of historically the cheapest and most difficult pieces of meat on the cow to cook. It is essentially two muscles coming together in the pectoral region of the front leg of the cow. It's a muscle group that does a lot of work. It's part of the muscle group that actually holds up the weight of the cow for its entire life. And so it's some of those working muscles that are really tough on the cow. And you have to cook it low and slow. You have to braise it or boil it or smoke it for a long time. You can't cook it like a steak where you can just grill it hot and fast and still have it be super tender.
See, I knew that you would know this because I grew up showing cattle, Angus cattle specifically, which is what this cut of meat is. And did you know that since cattle don't have a collarbone, that this muscle supports 60% of their weight?
Wow.
Sounds like you already knew that, but
Wow.
I found that little piece of trivia and I thought it was interesting.
Would not have known 60%, but obviously, yeah,
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
And it explains why it's so tough.
Yeah, absolutely. I love dealing with the whole brisket, the whole Packer brisket, which is where you do have the two muscles coming together.
Right.
So you can kind of see that this area here, and where you have the taller piece of the brisket and just like the obviously larger chunk, and where it comes more to a point is the point side of the brisket.
Right.
And then where it's flatter and where it kind of lays out flatter is the flat side of the brisket. So the flat here, and you can kind of see on the end that's one muscle.
Right.
And that muscle kind of tucks in underneath the other muscle that runs over the top here. And there's a seam between those two muscles that runs here. That's a big chunk of fat there as well. And you can kind of see here that's that fat layer right there that's running between these two muscles. It's a lot more concentration of fat, a lot more marbled beef that's coming from the point. But obviously there's a lot of fat all over this thing. And we've got to trim a lot of that to get it ready for the smoker.
So if somebody wants to do this at home, how much, where do you start when it comes to trimming?
Yeah, so it depends on the size of the brisket that you get and how much trim came off of it at the slaughterhouse. And like you can see, I'm just sticking my fingers in here between, like this is just fat right here. And I'm trying to not get any extra muscle taken off, but we'll do some, like that's just going in the trash can.
Right.
There's nothing we're gonna do with that. And this whole chunk right here is also, this is all just fat. So
pretty much anything that you can grab, like a handful of solid fat.
And a lot of that's also just not really gonna do great in the smoker. I mean, we're cooking this thing for 12 to 14 hours in the smoker. And during that time, a lot of just the little bits that you have sticking off are just gonna cook off, burn off during that time anyway. So you don't really need to keep it around. So that's part of the trimming that we're doing as well, is really kind of creating some degree of aerodynamics in there for that smoke to flow around. So this side looks really pretty good to me. We're gonna apply enough mustard and then my salt and pepper rub to coat this, and that's what we're looking for there.
So Louisiana is home to 440,000 head of cattle, and in 2019, the Louisiana beef industry generated $390 million. So now we're in the smoking stage, correct?
That is correct.
Again, I'll repeat, this is not for the faint at heart, especially when you're doing 24.
Yep, it's a lot of briskies. Right at daylight is when I'll be here by myself and I get to pull them all off and wrap them in butcher paper and put them all back on.
All by yourself?
Yep. And then we'll slide down to the next bay.
So Jay is famous across Baton Rouge and the state of Louisiana, and actually across the country, for being a pretty awesome chef. He made his name by strapping a smoker to the back of his truck for tailgating season during LSU football games. And as you can see, it's only upgraded from here.
I found this platform called blogging, and it was in 2009. I started a food blog, and then through that started Facebook pages and Twitter handles for that food blog, and then turned that into radio programs and broadcast and podcasts, radio programs and podcasts. And then that led to TV opportunities, and every time different social media channels would come through, I would use that, and I was just an early adopter for those things and was able to build a brand through food media that led to actually being able to build a career in food. But that was never really the intent. I mean, I never went to culinary school. I never was a professional chef by trade.
Right.
I just started to really love working in the food world. Day 2.
The magic of television, we don't have to wait.
Yeah, it was.
Because you did all the work last night.
It was a great night, though. I kept the fire going, and so these guys have been on the pit for a little over 14 hours now. We're looking for it to get up to about 205 degrees internal temperature, over 200, and then could let it rest a little bit.
Yeah.
So this is that point.
Yeah.
This is the flat side here. So this is where we'd really get that sliced brisket from. A lot of your chopped brisket, you can get some slices from there. To get started, I like to just cut off a little bit of that point end. And so you were talking about the smoke ring.
It's pretty perfect.
Yep, we can look at the smoke ring right around. You really develop that red color around the edges and that really kind of black bark color that's on the outside. Obviously, this was a close to a 20-pound brisket when it went on the pit. It's gonna yield, gosh, probably, we still probably have 13 pounds, 12, 13 pounds of meat right here. Can feed a lot of people with this one brisket. So if you're just doing one in the backyard, get a whole family together, have fun.
Well, I'm assuming that you had one extra for me that I can take home. Because if you don't, I'm just gonna stay here and eat it.
The good news is when I cook briskets, I cook 24 at a time, so I think we can make that happen.
Well, it is absolutely perfect, Jay. I know it was a long night, but it was certainly worth it, and I know that everybody that's gonna pick it up today is gonna be really happy. If you wanna learn more about Louisiana beef or any of Jay's products or Jay's services, his restaurant, you can visit our website at twilatv.org. I'm gonna leave you off, signing off today, because I'm gonna sit here and try as much as he's gonna let me. So thank you so much, Jay. It's been wonderful. Thanks for joining us on Feasting on Agriculture.
Feasting on Agriculture with Kristen Oaks White was brought to you by the Louisiana Crawfish Promotion and Research Board, Louisiana Crawfish, ask before you eat, and by the Louisiana Beef Industry Council, Beef, It's What's for Dinner, and by the Louisiana Rice Promotion Board, Think Rice.
As Kristen mentioned, if you want to learn more about Jay Ducote and his backyard brisket recipe, or to purchase some of his special spice blends, visit our website at twilatv.org. Now, if a backyard brisket is not what you're hankering for, maybe it's because you're still craving some Louisiana crawfish. Let me tell you, you're not wrong to want some right now, and it's possibly the best time of the year to feast on Louisiana crawfish with your friends and family. We've got some prices for you from around the state. In Baton Rouge, Tony's Seafood has live crawfish from Louisiana farmers that you can grab for $3.29 a pound, and for boiled, you can get them for $4.49 a pound. In Shreveport, Caddo's Crawfish has live crawfish for $2.50 a pound and boiled crawfish for $4.75 a pound. In Lake Charles, Cody's Crawfish Shop also has live crawfish for $2.50 a pound, and boiled crawfish is $4.99 a pound. As always, call and check on prices and availability before you head out. Prices can change, especially before the weekend. Also, be sure you're getting Louisiana crawfish. The Louisiana Crawfish Promotion and Research Board has an easy way for you to be sure. Always ask before you eat. Well, that does it for this edition of TWILA. Be sure to join us next week when we'll meet a family that's been keeping Louisiana sweet potatoes on your table for generations. For all of us here at TWILA, thanks for joining us. We hope to see you again right here next week.